She didn't say when, she didn't say when, but at least I got her on the phone.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? It's your boy Dark Waters with another episode of Out of Left Field. And for those of you who are new to the Dark Waters channel, to explain to you what Out of Left Field is, it is a storytelling format that I came up with that's real free flowing. It's very free flowing. It's not like the highly produced stories with the music and the sound. Well, it has music, but it doesn't have all the background sounds and everything else. It's essentially the same thing as when I do a radio interview. The same concept. It's just me telling you guys a story, not live, but as close to live as possible, right? So it's one of the fan favorites. Hadn't done one of them in a while. And just so you'll know, the reason why I end up doing these is because there's time periods where I go through, call after call after call after call from people. And if you don't know the way the stories, there's two ways stories appear on the Dark Waters channel. One is these are stories that my friends tell me that are very close friends of mine. And then there's other stories that are kind of submitted verbally to me through members of the Dark Waters family, where they call my phone number and I talk to them over time. So there's three ways. And then the third way is that some of the stories from Phantoms and Monsters blog, which we have a monetization agreement with, are put on the channels as well. So some of them are super high format, like Bigfoot Expedition in Alaska, Killing Bigfoot, or Siege of Locket Ranch, or then it kind of dumbs down to 3 scary stories, 4 scary stories, blah, 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 blah. And then you get Out of Left Field, which is this. So Out of Left Field, that's an explanation for you. Boom. So I've been talking to, you guys got to forgive me for the kind of heavy breathing, but it's kind of I'm stuffy. I've been talking to a number of people, and I had a couple of encounters that I think are just insane, right? As you guys know, I do not like dealing with the demon possession, whole demonic thing. But I did have the occasion of running into a young lady who I grew up with. She was older than me. She's definitely older than me. I think she's 4 years older than me, maybe 5 years older than me. But her brother and I used to be childhood friends. So I ran into her at Mardi Gras. Most random thing on the planet. And I almost didn't recognize her because she had so many tattoos and 4 or 5 children with her. And she told me that her brother was in federal penitentiary. So she says, hey, give me your phone number. My brother would like to speak to you. And I'm like, all right, cool. Now, I'm not giving you the guy's name. I'll give you one of his aliases. His alias is Magnolia Red. Or one of his aliases, Magnolia Red. So I give her my number. Come home. A couple of days pass. My phone rings. I get a call from a correctional facility. If you ever had a phone call from a correctional facility, you know that call is a collect call. And so I take the call. And it's this guy that, I literally grew up with. We played football in a lot across the street from my house. And so we're just talking, And he's like, man, what you've been up to, how you been. And I'm telling him that I'm sorry that, you're in this situation. I didn't even know that he had gone up. I didn't ask him what he went to prison for because I kind of got an idea already, because based on how he was as a kid, I can imagine some of the things he did. But anyway, moving forward. Phone call 1 is just kind of us just chopping it up. At the end of that call, he says, hey, man, do you mind if I call you because it gets a little lonely in here? Do you mind if I write? Would you write back, or would you send me a letter? Boom, boom, boom. Can you send me some magazines? Just he trying to get stuff. And I'm cool with it, because he's not the only friend I have in there. So he calls back 2 days later. And he's really interested in what I'm doing. So I tell him about, the Dark Waters channel. I tell him about my real estate investing. I tell him about, a couple other business ventures that I have going on. And he's like, man, I'm real proud of you. You always been real smart. The whole shebang. And he says, well, I got a story for you. And I'm like, well, what kind of story you got for me? Now, I didn't know that Red's grandmother was into voodoo. I didn't know that at all. I met Red's grandmother a number of times when we were kids, but I didn't know his grandmother was into voodoo. And so Red goes on to tell me that he moved out of our old neighborhood a couple of years after I moved out. And he moved to another neighborhood uptown. Now, this was his choice because he could have stayed where he was, but he wanted to move out and go with his half-brother, where his half-brother lived. And his half-brother lived in a very, very rough neighborhood. He moves uptown by his half-brother. And his half-brother is a dope dealer. Not just a regular dope dealer. You know, like there's dope dealers. There's guys who sell, there's guys who sell weed. You know, they might sell you an ounce of weed. You know what I'm saying? And then there's guys who's got weed, but they got like garbage cans full of fucking weed at their house, right? You know, like garbage cans, like the kind that you pick up leaves with. You know, there's guys who sell heroin. Then there's those guys that have kilos of drugs. Well, these are the type drug dealers and over time he gets into these battles with people. His half-brother gets killed. And then 4 of the other people that he's working with get murdered. So basically, his enemies are closing in on him. And Red makes a deal with the demon. Which, now guys, let me pause right here. Because when he's telling me this on the phone, I'm like, why are you telling me this? Like, why would you even tell me this? He's like, well, man, you doing stories. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to tell you my story. He makes this deal with a demon. I will not repeat the name. Y'all know I don't play that foolishness. But he makes this deal with this demon. And his deal was that he would be able to run the drug trade in exchange for his soul. While I'm talking to this dude, I'm like, dog, like, because, I guess he didn't expect me to believe him, guys. I guess he didn't expect me to just be like, yeah. I guess he expected me to be like, nah, bro, you crazy, and hang up the phone. But my first reaction is, what's the purpose of that? Like, revenge and money. When somebody say, I run this, I'm the shot caller. So in his mind, he was going to be the shot caller. He the one calling shots, taking people out, and making sure that he ran the streets. Well, he got what he wanted. He got what he wanted for 5 years. He was on top. Then on the 5th year, the 5th month, the 5th day, is exactly how he described it. He was sitting in a car outside one of the little corner stores, and he had just opened what we call a Hawaiian Punch. I don't know if y'all ever had a Hawaiian Punch. He had just opened a Hawaiian Punch and started drinking. And a 13-year-old little boy that he knew walked up to him and shot him. He said the kid was scared, so the kid didn't hit him in the chest. The kid hit him in the stomach, like on the right side of his body, towards his stomach, towards his liver, and hit him in the leg. And he pulled off. He said he drove off. He was trying to drive himself to the hospital, passed out. Bam! He hits a telephone pole. Of course, emergency services come out, police, ambulances, because he's been shot and all the rest of this stuff. He got all kind of shit on him that he don't need. He got drugs in the car. He got unregistered firearms in the car. Goes into the hospital, recovers from being shot, ends up going to trial and going to prison. What he told me was this. He said, yeah, man, I made that deal and I got what I wanted for a limited time. But I never thought that I would spend the rest of my life in prison. And it was heartbreaking for me. It really was. It was heartbreaking for me because I've said so many times that, a lot of stuff that goes on in this world is spiritual warfare. And unfortunately, to have somebody that, I know this brother, crazy. But needless to say, Red, I did your story. I don't even know if you're going to be able a chance to hear this. There's no way for me to kind of reenact your story. But Red, I did your story, man, and hopefully you'll hear it. All right. The next person I talked to, and I'm only really doing 2 of these. The next person that I talked to, this lady, when we first started talking, it took a little while for me to start trusting her because she started off telling her story and she was excited about telling her story. And when it comes to this particular topic, which is Dogman, I find that when people are excited to tell me the story, you're normally a little bit off, right? But it turns out that's just how she is. She's just an excitable person. And considering her circumstances, I think it's amazing the type of personality that this woman has because this woman's blind, right? And like I said when I first started talking to her, when you first start talking to a person on the phone, you have no freaking clue they're blind. The fact that she's blind comes out when she's telling me the story. Now, the Dogman encounter happens to her when she's out with her son, and they're on a walking trail in Arkansas. Early in the morning, she's walking behind her son, and she's 20 yards behind him. He always keeps her in eye shot, where he can look over his shoulder and see her. and he'll get ahead of her and slow down, let her catch up with him. He wants to make her feel independent. I've spoken to her and her son. 7:30 in the morning, the sun is out, it's not foggy. To describe this trail that they're walking on, as you're walking around, you kind of circle around the park, and then on the outskirts of the park, there's just these woods. So, you know, while you're walking around the park area, pretty wide open, but when you get on the outskirts of the park, which when you're taking your larger loop around, you kind of go into the woods, and then you come back out, and you come back out on the other side of the park. So they walk around the park, and then they get to the part of the trail where they're going into like the little wooded area. But it's not like woods like some spooky, Sleepy Hollow type TV show woods. It's just walking through some freaking woods. But it's a trail that a lot of people use. As they're walking, he looks back and he notices that she stopped, like dead in her tracks. And so he's standing there looking at her, and he's saying to himself, well, you know, what is she doing? She normally just keeps walking and keeps up with him. From her perspective, at the same time this was happening, she told me that she was starting to hear this low rumbling growl from her left, which is pretty much the wood line that leads into the woods. They're on a trail to the wood. On the left side, it leads deeper into the woods. On the right side, there's like trees, but if you get on the other side of those trees, you're right back in the park. Well, from her left side, she's hearing this low growling sound, and she's thinking it's a dog, right? She's like, oh my God, I got a dog up on me right now. In her mind, the best thing to do was stop, try and get a sense of where it was from the sound. And she knew that if she stopped, her son would eventually turn around and see that she stopped. The growling was low, but it wasn't strong. It sounded like a regular dog. So she starts walking again. She's like, okay, well, at least if it moves, I'll know what I can do. So she starts walking. She hears whatever it is moving along the tree line, paralleling her. And then she hears a growl again, but this time it's strong. I mean, it's loud. Simultaneously, her son, who's ahead of her, hears the growl. So he starts running towards her because he's like, I don't know what the hell this is. From the son's description, he sees this gigantic head, freaking dog head is what he said. He said it looked like a big German shepherd head, poke out from behind a tree to where you could see it on a trail, and the head was looking at his mother. Now, from her perspective, she heard the growl. She said, I got this sense. And she's like, I couldn't see what it was, but I felt it. She's like, I felt its intentions, and I felt like whatever this thing was, it was evil, and it was right there in front of me. So you got this head sticking out of the trees, and it's in between her and her son. Her son is jogging back towards her, and he's no more 20, 30 yards away. He sees this head, and he starts screaming at it. Hey, like screaming, trying to get its attention, because he's thinking whatever this big dog is about to freaking eat his mom. The thing turns and looks at him, and now you got to keep in mind, this is this man's mother. This is how afraid he was, and he stops running. He said, man, this thing looked at me like it was going to kill me. He was like, dude, I ain't gonna lie, I was scared. Of course, it's the mother who ended up running this thing off. She takes her walking stick and she just starts swinging it and screaming. She said, it didn't matter. I just knew it wasn't going to take me without a fight. His son says when she starts doing that, it looks back at her and it stares at her like, what the hell is this woman doing? The insane thing about this whole encounter is, as she's swinging that stick, and being as brave as you can expect a person to be under those circumstances, this thing looks at her and backs back into the wood line. And he says he watches this thing back. It doesn't turn around and walk away. It just keeps stepping backwards into the wood line. He grabs his mother by the hand. They cut through the trees, because you got to walk around the path to get back to the park area. They cut through the trees, across the park, to the parking lot, in the car, and they leave. And they haven't been walking in that area again. To me, the story was just like, almost was like, I thought it was not even exaggeration, to be honest. I thought the story was a lie when I first heard it, based on how exciting and how excitable she was when she was telling the story. But what I've discovered about this woman, and I alluded to this earlier, is I've discovered that although she's blind and has to have a walking stick, and she's probably the most happy person that I've ever talked to. I mean, the kind of person that when she calls me, it's like, hey, Dark, what's going on? like raises my spirit. So I can say that I'm truly honored and blessed to be able to share her encounter. I believe her encounter is 100% true. I'm happy that it worked out the way it did. And you know, guys, I kind of stray away from Dogman because I think that a lot of the stuff that comes with Dogman lately has just been straight up bullshit. I'm gonna be honest with you. And then with the overreaching people, they won't call it Dogman, but they call it werewolves, and then they just put out 1,000 fucking stories that are just insane. I'm very, very selective now on the Dogman stuff, and I have a lot of good Dogman stuff that I'm holding on to. But this one was one that I promised her that I would tell, and so, my lady, that's your story, and I hope you enjoyed it because I enjoyed talking to you. And as you know, you can call me anytime. All right, guys, those are the two stories that I wanted to share with you guys for the Out of Left Field. I hope you enjoyed them. What's coming up next is I'm doing some Bigfoot Bonanza. That is pretty much done. Then we're going to go to some stories that I got about pterodactyls, or I don't even call them pterodactyls. I would call them thunderbirds. Some thunderbirds. And then I'm not sure what comes after that, to be honest with you guys. You know, I'm toying with doing my very first, where you take kind of like the top 5, blah, blah. You know how people do the top 5, blah, 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 blah. Well, taking one particular topic and taking a documentary format to kind of explain the details of what's what, along with the stories and blending them in. I'm toying with doing that. I started to try and do it with Dogman, but I just decided I don't even want to do it. And so I'm thinking about doing that with these vampire stories that are here. The problem I have with the vampire stories is some of the stories that I have are so true and they've been vetted so much that even to put them out, I'm afraid. I'm not afraid, but I'm scared. Fuck it. I'm afraid to put those stories out. And if I can wrap them in and weave them into something else, I would feel a lot more comfortable. You know, I really would feel a lot more comfortable. So, yep. But anyway, that is it for Out of Left Field, ladies and gentlemen. I'll do a little editing to this. Not a lot. I'll add a little music to it. And then you guys will have this tomorrow.